Hello everyone, this is Here's Trivia. Welcome back to another episode of our Season 4 Subscribers Game Tournament as we continue here in Round 1 action, and we're looking to wrap up Group F and Round 1 as a whole, starting with the fourth match between President Duck in the green versus King of Yen in the red. And looking at their composition here, this is going to be President Duck's third and final game. So far he is 0-2 with the burning of Zhang Jiao comp, but now he's moved away from that as he has Cheng Pu, Lady Zhurong, and Meng Huo. So this one's going to be about boosting the attack power and speed of Lady Zhurong and Meng Huo, who will also share the Power of Love bonus for 25% damage resistance, stacked with the Handmade Guard from Cheng Pu. So Cheng Pu's passive will increase their attack speed, the unit choice will increase their damage resistance to 50%, and hopefully they can carry the match. Then looking at their unit, we have 5 additional unit of Saber Militia on Cheng Pu, which I believe is a very weird choice because that money could have been consolidated into another elephant perhaps. And then there are 6 Tiger unit on Lady Zhurong. So these are kind of wild, it's hard to control them. They are unbreakable, but they are quite fragile and the charge bonus have been nerfed significantly since the release. We'll see how they do here in multiplayer. I don't think we have seen Tigers before. And then we have a Nandrong Elephant plus another regular Naman Warrior to round out the comp. So it's going to be very vulnerable to cavalry across the board, although those Tigers could run interference. We'll see how they play. And the core concept behind this comp is going to be about damage resistance stacking on Lady Zhurong and Meng Huo, as well as boosting their attack speed with Cheng Pu's passive. And then looking at King of Yen's side, I think he's bringing the exact same composition with Xu Huang, Yan Baihu, and Pei Yuanshao. So strong generals plus the stock on Yan Baihu, 4 cavalry units plus 2 infantry that you're not going to see as there are no vision on President Duck's side, and some very value-oriented Qingzhou unit on Xu Huang, and those 2 odd virtuous noblemen on Pei Yuanshao, as well as those archer peasants, which basically won't contribute very much to this fight. And I'm pretty eager to see how this battle plays out on the battlefield, as I think this is the first time we have Tiger of this volume in any of our multiplayer battles. Alrighty, as we load into battle here, we can see the deployment's pretty standard for King of Yen, spreading his invisible units out on 2 sides with Yan Baihu pushing in the front, and then the standard unit in the back with the infantry in the front and archers in the back. Cavalry to support the other 2 generals. And for President Duck, I'm actually super curious to see how he plays with a comp that's not Zhang Jiao burning himself alive. We have all the Tigers in the back. They will be released once they're in range of enemy units. And then the Saber Militia is a tough choice here. I don't think they're actually viable. Naman Warrior also very low quality. You don't really want low quality units in multiplayer. It doesn't really add up in value and you end up basically trading poorly into more superior units. There is the elephant. It does have 3 cadence that you can play, and right now we have the rapid cadence with the increased speed and immune to fatigue to charge up into the enemy, and we'll see how that goes. Now obviously there are good targets to hit the poison volley, but the Tiger could make things very tricky for Yan Baihu because they will pursue him since he'll be the one in range once he laid down the first fire and if they're released afterwards. Now the problem is the elephant's only boosting the units on this side. He has swapped the songs, I think. Now the offensive damage one. Maybe speed's a little bit better in the beginning. Let's see if we can sneak this shot here before they... Oh, he's visible. Do they release the Tiger? Does he realize that they're close? Nope. Alright, trees blocking a lot of the animation there. Not really too much there. A couple units did get hit. A couple of them are pulling back because of it, which is kind of weird. I mean, for the Tiger units, the poison's not going to do too much because there's only 30 units is like a cavalry unit. But for the infantry, you can see just the poison itself has killed off about a 1/4. I would have released the Tigers because, you know, then they would just chase down Yan Baihu. They're trying to go for the general versus general fight. I mean, there are only 2 cavalry covering, so perhaps this is not a terrible idea since they do have a cavalry backing them up. Kind of disjointed because you want to get the guard passive here on the Handmade Guard to provide that damage resistance. She's kind of outrun her passive abilities. infantry coming to help. Fire arrow from the peasant archers just to add a little bit of fire damage. Yamahu has come back. They're largely ignoring this, but the tiger can be released. I'm curious about that, but let's see if there's any dismounting over here. Yes, there is. And with that flaming mace, I think the elephant's actually making it more difficult for the generals to actually get the damage on the right generals. They're crowding the space, and now it's going to be a little bit random who's hitting who. There's a good focus. They're basically fighting it out here. Yamahu has come to join the numbers. Meng Huo has selected the elephant? Okay. I mean, it's not terrible. Just, I thought it would have been both on foot fighting this out. Now it's 3v2. He's trying to remove Chengpu because Chengpu's passive here with the Exemplar boosting the melee evasion and attack rate of everyone else. Good focus target. I think this is definitely a strength by King of Yen. You can see the tigers tearing up some of the units. It's definitely a sight. But it's hard to control. It doesn't really... Yeah, the tigers, once you release them, place their own game, and we don't know exactly how much damage they will do until much later, but you can see the focus target has wiped out both of them, and they can probably wipe out Meng Huo afterwards. I mean, essentially, it's a numbers game. It's 3v2. Despite the damage resistance, I mean, the units got killed. They need to keep space and not be engaged. The elephant and the handmaid guard, they just need to be there. You know, don't risk themselves. The tigers are now crowding them. Withstand the hit. The tigers only last so long. They seek out their own targets. So you can see after the initial shock, the Qingzhou units are bouncing back. The tiger tamers are unbreakable, so they will stay here till the end. Surprising value from the peasant archers. They're remounting for sure. Yeah. Meng Huo should be... I mean, if he's going to be elephant, he should be targeting the infantry, right? He is not going to be much help against generals. Just because it's basically like fighting on cavalry. You're charging and you're not going to land most of your hits. These two cavalry are still on the side. That's fine. I mean, they're just trying to kill Meng Huo right now. Down he goes. Now it's just the unbreakable units, which has pulled back. Among warriors. I'll take a look at the kill count later. But you can see tigers just kind of chase their own thing. You can't control them. If they want to go after a routed unit, they go after a routed unit. If they want, you know, basically refuse to fight things that they actually need to fight. The hidden units coming in. Basically, Yabaihu's units are joining the fight now to clean up this. And I think Tiger, after a while, they just run off the screen, right? They basically lose interest. They don't see an immediate target near them. And then they just basically decide to leave the battle. And over here, they've just been eating people this whole time. I don't think it's a terrible usage. I think they traded pretty well into the Qingzhou units. It's just that the generals lost, right? If the general side won, and this was the outcome afterwards, where the generals are swapped, then it would have been fine. I think these guys would just stay unbreakable. The generals would go clean up these infantry and these cavalry. Shouldn't be a problem. But in this case, the general side lost. Target focus, I think this is probably King of Yan's biggest strength, which is why he won our tournament before. And he picked 3 really strong generals with high health. The fact that Meng Huo was on elephant, I think, was a mistake. The last few getting picked off here. They're very weak, aside from the tiger. Very weak. And there's usually 2 types of tiger. One with the slinger, which are what these are, and there's one with the, I think, melee infantry. Those are a little bit stronger in combat, but they also cost a bit more. The Tiger is same strength, so if you really just want to maximize the Tiger power, then get the Slingers for the cheaper cost. They don't hurt. 25 base damage, 6 piercing, with only 100 range. Not really a actual range unit. This might be it. Yep. Alright, I want to look at the kill count on the Tiger units. Not that high, right? So the trade value here, probably not worth it. They were able to kind of wipe out the Qingzhou unit. You can see the Qingzhou unit doesn't have kills because killing Tigers doesn't count. You have to kill the Tamer to get the kill count. So they were basically fighting Tigers, and that's just not reflected in their stat. I think it did neutralize, but cost-wise, Qingzhou unit's so much cheaper compared to the Tiger unit, and therefore I think it's a terrible trade. Moho got some kills. I don't think he was used properly. With this comp, if you want to have these two generals being the high damage resistant target, I mean, the gamble is that these two have good fighting capabilities. I mean, Tenacity of Steel, it's not bad. I feel like for President Duck, in all 3 of his matches, he doesn't need to take the offensive role that much. It's super spread out. Like, we couldn't even catch the Tigers release because there was so much action with the generals, which I felt was going to decide the fight, so it kind of kept the camera on them. It's hard to micro like that. It's fine for the generals to stay back. It's fine to get the passive boost that you have from your elephant with all your units at one point. He fights very divided fights. Even when he was fighting the Zhangjiao battles, he liked to charge his general in against enemy generals right away, even in situations where he might not have the advantage. In this case, 2 guys fighting on the ground versus 3 guys fighting on the ground. It was also, good on King of Yan's side to realize that was the situation and pull Yan Baihu back. There's a lot of players who's very stubborn about keeping Yan Baihu hidden, trying to land those perfect poison volleys. Here, King of Yan knew he needed to win that fight on the ground and pull Yan Baihu back in time to join the fight. And then after you win, you have the freedom to use poison volley all you need. In this case, really didn't need it against these Saber militias. They are just not going to bring much value back for you. Morale is too low, vulnerable to cavalry. I think if these weren't recruited at all, these 5, and just funded the money, and plus this one, and just grabbed a few more elephants. This elephant was also kind of just thrown away. It was charging into a general fight, crowding the space, adding the chance where it might just mess up how your generals can fight them. If they were just there to provide one boost, the damage boost, they could have easily just kind of trailed behind and forced the enemy units to engage them or engage your generals and kind of trade off from there. Same thing with the Handmaid Guard, also just being thrown in there with the general fight. They're really there just to provide a passive boost, and you're fighting away from the rest of your support unit, make it more difficult. Whereas King of Yan was much better off with his generals, supported by just 2 cavalry, but they were there just to fend off whatever's there. And essentially these 2 cavalries traded against these. Eventually we had some of the cavalry join in the fight, but that was pretty much it. Surprising value on the peasant archers who weren't touched and was able to fire arrows. I mean, they didn't do too much, but just surprising that they were able to do anything at all. But overall, very good match. Unfortunately for President Duck, his first tournament, it's going to end the group 0-3. But we saw many new ideas from him, and hopefully he can refine some of the execution in micro and do better in future tournaments. So 2 more matches left for this group to round up round 1, and we'll see you guys then. Bye!